Okay. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
I'm good, Kim. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you again for coming on. I know we chatted a little bit
Mhm.
before we went on the air. So let's get to it because I know you have an 8-month-old
I
baby.
do.
Oh my
It's a
gosh.
good boy.
So that
Wow.
leads into your background. Tell me a little bit about your background. So you're married.
I'm married. I got married last year.
Okay.
Uh, Moved to Scottsdale, Phoenix area 6 years ago after having a salon for over 20 years in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Oh,
and living in pretty much Cincinnati, Ohio, most of my entire life, all of my adult life. Just decided to come out and come to a place where I vacationed a lot and seek better weather, and had an absolutely fabulous run at having a salon, a 6 chair salon for 21 and 3/4 year. But was just finished. I have two older daughters, so once they graduated from high school, um, I wanted to just not own a salon anymore and just have freedom, because when you have a brick and mortar, it's wonderful. Um, but the one thing, it's you're just constantly chained to it. It's not hard. It's not stressful. It's not a lot of work. You're like, tell people, you're a hamster on a hamster wheel. Like doing it by illness, oh, it's so stressful. It's like, it's really not. You just have things you have to do. You have to cut hair 40, 50 hours a week, and then you have to like fix things, or whatever.
you're absolutely right about that because I own two big salons myself in
Okay.
my 28 years now in the business, and it is you are chained to it.
Yeah.
Whether you have a full staff, whether you have a manager, none of that really matters because at the end of the day, it's your sole responsibility.
And right. And isn't that so true? People like hire that down. It's like, you still have to know what's going on, right? That's how
Mhm.
businesses fail, when they just hire somebody and it's like, go golf
Like
or
the manager receptionist I had that was stealing, like
yeah,
robbing me blind and stealing everyone's tips, for example.
right, right. Isn't that funny too? And when I had a nail tech, when salons could still have nail techs, but it's kind of been not as prevalent in salons as it used to be.
Because of the smell?
No, I just think the nail salons have proliferated, where it's hard to have it like, it's just like I found people wanting it, but they would go to like the specific nail salons all the time. It's like, oh, I wish you still had nails. And I'm like, oh, maybe if
Yeah,
people
for
would
the
patronize it,
two-finger
we would
that
still have
user,
nails.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they can't exist for free, and it just kind of went away. But there was a time when it wasn't.
Yeah,
Isn't it funny when people steal? It's always like a set is like $20,
yes.
$35, and if your drawer's going to be off, it's like off by like 737.
Right, right, right.
So you got to steal some change too, girl.
Right, exactly. Like, don't make it obvious.
Right.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
So
how
when
I proved it with this girl, which is a simple. If you want me to go into it, I have the
yeah,
receptionist
you tell.
leave the drawer open, and at the end, receptionist I had two of them for decades. So leave the drawer unlocked, the drawer would be off by $20, $30. Lock it when you go to the bathroom, and the drawer always balanced. Then we left it unlocked again, the
Interesting.
drawer was off. So I was like, well,
When you own, salon ownership, people don't look at giving away a free service as stealing, or they don't look at, giving someone a free shampoo or conditioner as stealing, but it
yeah,
absolutely is robbing the bottom line blind.
it is. And that raises a good point if you wanted to talk about like ownership. Most salon owners that I know that have a brick and mortar with W-2 employees, there's just I tell people when they ask me, it's like, if you want to own a salon, a brick and mortar with chairs, do it because you love it. Don't do it because of the money. Because by the time, to your point, Kim, after you stock the back bar, everything that's involved, pay
Yeah.
the stylist, you have to pay them extremely well, or they'll just jet. And and you can't blame them. And there's just not that much money in it.
No, there really isn't. Most of it goes back into the business. And
It
even
does.
your young stylist, you know, everybody has to make a living. And when
Mhm.
they're doing 100% of the work and they're only getting 60%, they don't understand that there's overhead
Yeah.
yet.
Because they see it's like they see that 40% and they think it goes, straight in your pocket. And I would say with the wind behind me, um, and I had my uh, building really, I held the deed to the building. So your biggest, huge, I got really lucky and was able to purchase it.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
that's huge.
yeah. So that's your biggest expense, and that's the raising rent. Is like I see why a lot of because if your rent gets raised, you have stylists leave. It's tough to hang on.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I kept it where it was just controllable for me because people were like, "How are you in business for over 20 years?" I'm like, I kept it small. I kept it where I could afford to, you know, pay the mortgage is what it was, and utility bills there, and keep things going. But it kept me small, but it allowed me to sleep at night too. But they
Well,
see that it's like, well, after you get your cut, it's like, dude, with the wind behind me on a good week, I might pocket, I don't know, maybe 15%. Typically, it's around 10%. And when
yeah.
you look at all the things you do
Hmm.
um, for that 10%, you can easily stay and do an extra haircut every night and be exactly where you were and not have any hassles. But
It's
for me, holding the deed made it a vested interest for me to hang on to the building.
And I think ownership too is like if you think about real estate, if you rent something versus owning it, well, when you own it, you have more control
Yeah,
over what you can and cannot do. And I think that's pretty much why people would prefer to own or even take that on, and just having control and
yeah,
control of your environment is what I think was my biggest factor. Like I can't, there's no one that can raise my rent. There's no other than my landlord, obviously,
hmm,
unless you own the building like you
yeah,
did.
right,
But you know, you control who you work with. You make the rules. You kind of control your destiny if you
yeah,
own versus when you rent. So,
yeah,
which brings me to kind of the trend now, and pretty much I think 80% of stylists, maybe that I don't really know. I haven't done my actual research, so
I'll go with 80.
I didn't say that, but they rent studios,
Yeah, yeah.
you
That's
know,
what my
and
wife and I just did 5, 6 weeks ago.
nice.
Yeah,
So
it was
now,
great. We
yeah,
followed Dale on social media and saw the studio come up. My wife had always been wanting to do one. We were both happy where we were, but it's just
your wife's a hairstylist as well.
she is. Uh-huh. Yep.
Oh, very nice. So you guys work as a couple.
We do. We are the husband and wife hair team.
Wow, I love that. And
Yeah.
how is that working for you?
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
With caring for our son, we overlap on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We're in the salon together. Outside of that, I have him Monday, Tuesday. He has childcare Wednesday and Saturday, and then she has him Thursday, Friday.
I love that. That's drama
Yeah.
free. Like you're
Yeah.
both right there, so no mess, no fuss.
I'm a little different from other stylists because of having a business for so long and being, like we said, tethered to it for so long. I knew when I came out here, you know, I just, because everybody else had freedom, especially when the studios opened and stuff. And that was the one thing I never had. I was like tethered to this thing, babysitting my real estate investment, I guess, if you want to call it that.
But that
But
was a good, did you cash in or did you sell it or are you still collecting?
no, I sold it, and it's that was a lesson with like paying back depreciation. I mean, it was worth owning the building, but real estate markets fluctuate these days, and it was fluctuating for commercial real estate 6 years, 7 years ago in Cincinnati. So
Yeah,
it,
so
like I said, it was worth doing. I'm not retired. I'm back, doing hair, but I'm in love with just the freedom of
oh, isn't it nice? Like
yeah,
I ended up in a studio just to take a little break and I never left. I
yeah,
thought, why would I dive back into
Well,
responsibility.
the very thing we're in, and you probably share this as well. When I owned a salon, the studios weren't, they didn't exist.
Right.
So you could build, rock star stylists and keep them. And since you owned a salon, you probably know that maybe one out of, I don't know, it's hard to say because it's changed and so many more people are in the industry now. So there's a lot of really great stylists out there. Back in the day, it was like 1 out of 30.
True.
Like rock stars, and you could keep them because, you build an environment that they liked at and they would stay. But then when the studios came, that was a completely separate challenge and people wanted to go about and do their own thing. And I couldn't blame them. And I was envious of that.
Yeah, I think
the energy changes at the salon. I'm like, oh God,
it is true. You're like, I want out. I feel like I'm in prison.
Right.
So would you say that after years in the business of mentoring new stylists, that do you find it challenging for you to learn and grow? Those of us that have been in the industry like forever, we know so much, right? We have a wealth of knowledge with cutting and coloring and all the things that we do. And I know you specialize in blonding hair. So do you find that when you're trying to get inspired, because when we step outside of that big salon, one team environment and go into a studio, we have to pull inspiration, whether it's from our suite mates or whatever. So do you find yourself stifled in any way, or do you still feel hungry for knowledge and education?
Excellent question. I still feel hungry for knowledge and education. I do work on a lot of blondes. But 6 years ago when I came out here, just people liked my blondes. There was a lot of people doing shortcuts. Maybe it's because I'm from the Midwest. Everybody says on work ethics, I don't do shortcuts. And
by shortcuts, what do you mean?
Full head foils. What really got me, girls would come and say, I book a full, I pay for a full. Why is the backside of my head brown? And it was really weird to me. I'm like, in Ohio, this is a partial. They're like, but it's a full. I booked a full. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, in Ohio, this is a partial. They're like, well, can you get hair to do like you did my friend, Allison's hair? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So Patrick, placement wise, as compared to Arizona, Scottsdale, what is a partial placement Ohio versus a partial placement in Scottsdale, or full even?
I think it varies. I mean, to me, a full head foil in Ohio is global, right? Global blonding with foils.
You're back.
Through the magic of television.
Yay!
Yay.
Okay.
So we were talking about inspiration, right?
Yep. We were talking about how do you stay inspired and who do you train with? Who did you train with in the beginning? Because there were two big players back in the day, was Tony and Guy and Vidal Sassoon. And some other ones too, like Rusk, Bumble, those. But even Bumble wasn't back in the late 90s. It was Vidal and Tony and Guy. Did you ever train with either of those?
I worked at a huge salon. There was 3 90-chair salons in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Ooh, 90.
Before I opened my place. So the master stylists, or whatever they wanted to call us, salon directors, they brought Tony and Guy's team up from Texas and trained us it was a week, 5 days solid.
Kenny Gibson.
We used James Morrison.
Oh, James Morrison. Nice.
Yeah, we spent a week with him.
He was the king of graduated bobs.
Yeah.
No one did him better.
So I learned a lot from that. Those schools weren't around back when I did it. Like, I'm a self-taught foil highlighter. I went to a Redken school.
Oh.
Learned the Milady book. Yeah. So
you have the Milady book.
Yeah.
That dinosaur.
Yeah, I know.
So funny.
That's what it was for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty
Hey,
much me, I just would always like, if somebody's doing something, if they're better at something than me, I would hand them foils and, pick their brains, do whatever. I think a lot of people get hung up and intimidated if somebody's doing something better than them. But I
no,
was, most
it-
people, if they're really skilled at something, like, you know, uh, when I would work with Kayla and multiple people, I'm like, yeah, yeah, sure, I'll show you. And I think because of when I had my salon, I would get kids out of school. They would be my assistant for a year, and then I would put them behind a chair.
sure.
So yeah, so training people, I think I'm really good at it. I don't, want to do it anymore. I've worked at places where they want to be involved in education, and I'm like, nope, been there, done that.
And
But what I like to do, and I have a saying is, once once and I refer myself to, also as a monkey. I say once the monkey can ride the bicycle, I like teach them to ride wheelies and things like
oh,
that.
I love it.
Because teaching someone that doesn't know how to, I don't care
Yeah,
what school they went to, and it's the
yeah,
same for all of us. It's hard
yeah.
when you're getting started, and it's hard. It's just like, but so I like to learn nuances, and I like to teach nuances, and I've worked with enough young stylists that I can typically see what's holding them up. Right?
Nice. Well, you know what? That's a niche in and of itself.
Yeah.
You could do that, only do that, and that holds tons of value.
It
Yeah,
does, but it's easier to do if it's somebody like you're working with, or
true.
someone like you connect with, just to take people. Because I'll have people hit me up once in a while. It's like to assist, and I don't want to be bothered with it. Like I really am like so in love with the freedom of
Yep.
not being tethered to something. Where other people, like I said earlier, other people dream of having a salon. I would stare out the window and dream of having freedom.
Yeah,
Just
you just want to dip your toe in when you feel like it
right?
and keep it moving. And I can certainly relate to that.
Yeah, I
So,
think people get to that point.
yeah, and speaking, that leads me into my next topic about social media. Social media, for those of us that have been in the industry for years and years, thank God I did not need, nor do I need today, social media
Hmm.
to build my clientele, to get a new client. I've invested enough of my time and years that word of mouth is all I need these days. Thank goodness. But even doing my new show and my platform, Hair Genius Academy, it requires all of you. It's no different than salon ownership, as far as having to be consistent, kind of like a diet, right? Like
Yeah,
the minute you fall off, you got to start all over again. Like
yeah.
you have to be consistent to grow that following. So how challenging is that for you? And do you care? Does it matter, to you, if you have a social media presence or not?
I mean, I care about it. Yeah, that's a great question. I do care about it. It's worked well for me. Instagram for hairstylists was just really taking off about 7 years ago.
Right.
Um, so it did really help me when I got here. I mean, I got in with, a lot of the blondes I do a lot of college girls.
Yeah.
I do all ages and I do all hair colors. I pretty much just profile my page that has no diversity, as I'm told by some, but
Oh,
it works. It works for me. And if I post a redhead or a brunette, I don't get any action. If I post the blondes, I get a lot of.
well, and that's demographic, right? Like you're in
Yeah,
Scottsdale. So
yeah.
that's where
So
ones
I
are.
mean, I
I mean,
like doing it. I could stand
there are a
there
lot
and
of ones.
foil
Yeah.
hair all day long. I love it. I love what I do. I've never not liked. There's days I don't want to work, I say, but I've never not wanted to do hair. Like
I
I've
love
liked, and that's I think I'm lucky in that regard. But yeah, social media is it's important. Word of mouth, yeah, it's always the best. But
What scares me about social media is for the industry itself. Certainly, it has it's good and bad, right? At the same time,
yeah,
because one, you get to see so much more than you ever could have imagined, than just right with when we had just magazines or waiting for somebody to advertise a class or something like
Yeah,
that. Now you get to see stylists in all over the world and and it elevates us all to see, those new trends coming out like fresh off the presses, if you will. So I think globally we're all doing the same quality of hair
I
thanks to
agree.
social media. You don't have backwards hair in one place and progressive hair in another
Yeah,
anymore, which is nice. But the downfall to that is anyone can post, anyone can teach, and sometimes they're teaching it wrong, like round layers. I don't understand that, never will, why you would cut the corners off and have short hair in the front and long hair in the back. I just was trained differently.
yeah.
But you also, you have people that know how to take really good pictures and know how to do really good quality videos, but it doesn't mean they're the best hairdresser.
Yeah, I think that's the whole bag of tricks. And earlier when we talked about like inspiration, I think it like being in a studio. I think it comes from the internet as well. It comes from Instagram, TikTok. Once you do it long enough, you get to know what's filtered, what's not filtered, what's real, what's not real. But also to touch back on the inspiration, I think you can get inspiration from the people in the studios that you work with.
Absolutely.
So because it's a community,
Absolutely.
it's totally a community, and so I think inspiration comes from all different places. And I think it's fair to say too that most people that can support a studio know what they're doing.
Oh, totally. Because
They all do
you
different
can't
styles of
build.
work.
Yeah, you're inside of a building, so you have no street front
Yeah,
presence. So anybody, you have to already be established to begin with, I think, to be in a studio.
yeah,
Well, let's talk about your blonding since I love hair too. I know. I don't know when I'm gonna not or stop loving it because I can't even believe I've been in it as long as I have. I had to
yeah,
count back when I started to do this show and I went, wow, I can't believe how many years I've been doing this and that I'm not even close to wanting to stop.
yeah. It's
But
a fun job.
yeah, when you talk about your what is now by default based on demographic, your blonding, which is
Hmm.
probably by default your specialty.
Yeah,
Do you have a favorite product line that you use?
I
And
use Schwarzkopf.
oh, me too. I love Schwarzkopf. So you like
Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with the Blonde Me developer. I think it's
okay?
important for the bonding link. That's a terrific product for me. I have friends that swear by Wella. Just
Do you get any swelling issues when you use Blonde Me? I love
um,
the like Blonde Plus. I just find like it brightens. It's Schwarzkopf, but it brightens just the same. But you don't get the swelling. I just do you have any tricks that you can lend? Because I've heard
um,
from other stylists as
I've
well.
I've used the other Schwarzkopf product and it works well too. I don't like once in a while we all get that person who's your foils swell, right? And it's we don't know what it is, metallic, they like puff out. It happens to all of us like, once every 18 months.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, what the hell happened in there?
Ah,
That's
yeah. Yeah.
crazy. But
Totally.
I put the lightener on as I approach the scalp, I put it on pretty thin. It's the hair's thoroughly
What's your
saturated, but
mixing consistency? What's
yeah,
the
but
ratio?
the lightener itself is pretty thin. So if I do get some swelling, it probably swells up to that.
But are you 2 to 1? Are you
2 to 1 usually.
okay? Got
I'd
it.
say I'm 2 to 1 94% of the time. And if I'm
Well, that
not
would
two to
keep it nice
one,
and thin. Yeah.
yeah, if I not 2 to 1, I really even wouldn't know why I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm out of developer. I'm just kidding.
Or something like that.
Yeah, or
So
maybe something's going on where I want it a little thicker, like to stay in place.
do you do any open air stuff or is it all foiling?
No, pardon me. I do a lot of well, I don't do so much balayage anymore. Balayage was big about 7 years ago. I went to a place in Buckhead, Atlanta called Siggers Academy, where I guess
Oh,
people from all over the world come to train. And I learned a lot how to truly balayage there. but people started wanting to go blonder. And if you do open air balayage, you can only get people so bright. So we all went back into the foils and just
So
kind
with
of,
all the techniques like the baby lights, the foliage, the balayage, all the things, teasy lights, are
Mhm.
you implementing all of those into your practice,
Yeah,
or you kind of have your go-to technique?
it depends upon what the client's wanting. I have a lot of blondes that just want their they come to me because they want their foils, to the scalp.
Really?
They
You
want
are
it
still
to,
going to the scalp.
yeah, that's
So
comprises a lot of my.
are you doing any lived-in color at all, or are you?
There's some people I do, but my lived-in stuff is probably like 10%. I do a
Gotcha.
lot of like global bleaching all over, platinum cards, and just I have a lot of my girls want to be bright blonde.
Yeah, and if it's all over platinum, you could have just only do that and be booked solid,
Yeah,
honestly.
that's fun. And when you talk about education, there's different things I did. Like you were talking, when you've been doing it forever, it doesn't take long to realize that when you go to like a Long Beach or a Chicago show, the
Yeah,
education there, in my opinion, is mostly these companies just pushing product.
exactly.
So you'll see these people up on stage, and you they're maybe not the best people for you to learn from. So those are pretty much just like vendor shows where you go look at clips and scissors, and they're
No, that's
definitely they're
very good.
definitely fun to go to.
Yeah, that's a very good perspective, and I like the way you worded that. They're not for me.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna learn from them.
But like nuances is what I think you get to a point where you learn nuances and your little tricks that separate you from somebody else. Um, your little bag of tricks is full of your little nuances that, like your little bag of gold that works for you. And that makes your lasagna taste like this, even they're using the same ingredients as this person's lasagna. They all taste a little better, or they all taste a little different. And some people like yours and some people like theirs. And it's
I
just,
mean, are you willing to share one of your little nuances in your bag of tricks? One little.
um, everything can be done with 20 volume. I almost never go over 20 volume.
I never do either.
Yeah. I mean, I have 30. I can't remember the last time I used 40. 30, I'll use sometimes. Like if I'm a lot of times I finish on the top of somebody's head, like in the crown. I work up the back first because I figured out early on, since I was a self-taught foil highlighter, because when I started, people were still pulling hair through caps. I read about foil highlighting. It used to take
That's
4
back.
hours to do one
The
of those things.
caps are back, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. But I'll mix 30 and 20 together to get a 25.
Gotcha. You get a 25.
Yeah, I don't have any hassles. I never get any hassles with the Schwarzkopf blonde me of overlapping 25 with 25 again.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
So like if you do some 30 and overlap with that 30, the hair may not like it so much. But 99%
Use like
of
bonders.
the time I'm
Use
25.
Do you ever use like a K18 prep or Olaplex or any of those bonding
No.
agents? Or you just go with what's in the bleach?
Yeah, when the Olaplex was brand new, I tried it, and that's back when it messed with you had to formulate differently, your
Right.
developers differently, and
Or something. Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't having any trouble, so
You just,
it just didn't gel with me. When you're on a schedule, it makes you nervous,
it is
right?
true.
You're like, I need this color done, because I got a 3 o'clock. So, and when you open it and it's still kind of gold, you're like, okay,
Oh,
yeah, everything's fine. It's like, I will never use this
you're
product.
like, oh, not fun. Do you put clients under heat?
Sometimes just for a few minutes.
Okay.
Depends
Got it.
upon what's going on.
And
And if
how
I
about,
know I'm going to put somebody under heat, I'll, because the Dale has dryers, I'll end here, right?
gotcha.
I'll do the foils differently, so I end here so that heat's blazing out on that, but not blazing, but
I know
just
what you're
depends upon
saying.
the situation. Sometimes I'll hit it with a blow dryer here and there.
That's smart. I
But
see a
yeah,
lot of
and another
getting
reason I start in the back, which is a nuance where I teach when I talk to younger people, which makes sense to me. Some I've been told it doesn't, but if you have to drop foils, drop the back, rinse them out, continue processing.
right.
So,
I
and that's
agree.
what I had to do early on when I was teaching myself how to foil.
Yeah, I mean, you figure it out, don't you?
Yeah.
So with that, do you do color corrections at all, or do you stay away from those?
I do color corrections. Years ago, I taught color for a company called Logix,
Oh
which
yeah, I
is,
remember
yeah,
that.
it's L'Oreal color. And they
Yeah.
put me through some incredible schooling, color theory schooling, presentation schooling. But yeah, I mean, I think I do beautiful reds and beautiful brunettes. I don't mind doing color corrections. Color corrections are a lot of work. And if a color correction comes to me, and this is just the truth, if they come to me, they have oodles of hair. I talk to them and I understand why their hair happened like it did. I'm going to put all this work into it. Even if I charge them a king's ransom, they're not going to come back. And it's just too much work.
It's not worth it.
So I just kind of stay away. If it's somebody that something happened and you can tell they're the type of client that's going to fit with your client base and come back to you, yeah, no problem. But if somebody just has this train wreck and they want you to fix it, they're not going to back it up with product. It's
Yeah,
just, you know,
and when you don't know the hair's history, you're right. You're just
yeah,
entering into like a you know, you never know what you're going to get yourself into.
right. Because
So
then
I
they'll be
always
mad at you because it doesn't look like it. And I have an excellent thing I tell people. Like I said, you know, your hair, especially like blondes or even natural brunettes, but especially blondes, I tell them something. They're like, you know, what if I went to an all over bleach, or what if I went dark brown? I tell them your hair. So hair's like a fabric, and your hair is like your favorite pair of blue jeans that you've worn. You've had them for 8 or 10 years. Um, they've been washed. They've been out in the sun. They've faded just perfect, and that's what makes your hair like it is. So you decide one day, I want my hair, these favorite jeans of mine to be black. You dye them black. You decide you don't like it after a couple of weeks. Then you want to bring your jeans to me and say, can you make my jeans look exactly like they did in this
oh
picture?
my
And I'm
God,
like,
that is such a great
yeah,
analogy.
because it's a
Love that.
progressive thing. These blondes.
It's true. And it is. Hair is fabric.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And oh, I want to go dark. Oh no, can you make it light? Oh, can I have highlights? You're right.
right.
That's a lot.
It's just
So
because people honestly, Kim, they think it's like ball paint.
it's true.
Yeah, and that's not a slam. It's just like people like, oh, I always thought it was like paint, you know, because it comes off. It's like it doesn't come off. It's like my beard coming out of my face, you know. I shaved
Right.
this morning, and 2 days later, it's like my razor's not working.
Right.
My color's not holding. Right?
That's too funny.
Yeah.
You're and it's true. We do. I think it's important. You know, and I think I've shared this with my audience many a times that my passion are newbies. I love new hairdressers and just kind of showing them the ropes so they don't fall into some of the pitfalls if they don't have to, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that's so important is to educate your clients because that makes your life behind the chair so much easier when they understand what's behind some of the request,
Yeah.
you know, and just kind of what exactly is involved. You know, you have to teach them how to care for their hair at home as well so that it is in proper condition in order to even receive something new so that
Right.
they don't get bored and leave you, you
Yeah, and
know?
that's why you have a client base, because so
Yeah.
often people will come in and we've all done the same talk like 6 trillion times. And for whatever reason, somebody will come in, like you said, it's a client that has a specific need. And instead of, you know, leaning up against the wall in front of them and saying, look, let me explain this to you, they'll just be like, yeah, okay, let me mix something up. I'll be right back. And if it's not the best thing for the customer, even though they really want it, it takes sometimes quite a bit of talking to say, you know, it's just not the best thing for me to do to your hair. It's not the best thing for you to do to your hair.
Right.
And you know,
Yeah, and I'd
these are
rather
the
say
reasons why.
no. Yeah, you'd rather say no and turn them away than to be the one who damages their hair.
Yeah, and
You
this is how hair works. And some people will love you forever like that. And some people will go and have it done anyways, but then they
And
can be mad at somebody
you.
else.
Yeah, they come back to you and they go, "Oh my God, you were right. My hair is ruined." And yep. So this is a random but relevant question, and I ask everybody I interview this question. Do you leave toner on for 20 minutes?
No.
Because all the brands preach and preach and preach. It only works to guarantee that it's not going to fade. You must leave it on for the full recommended processing time of 20 minutes.
I mean, the quick answer for me for that is no. But then again, it depends upon what I'm doing. If I'm toning somebody with if they've got really fine hair and they really want it to hold, and I'm toning them with like an 09G Redken or oh 09 NW, and they've got fine hair and it does bodify the hair, I will, I'll leave that on for 20 minutes. If I'm toning somebody with level 7 or level 8, and I want it to be a little more translucent but darker, I won't leave it on for the 20 minutes.
Got you.
The clears, I don't do those clears on people because I don't think they work. I think it's just taking people's money, and people swear by them. I guess I should say they don't work for me.
You mean for shine?
Yeah, there's people out there that swear that they work, and that's all good. But I feel bad doing it to people because I don't think the hair is any thicker. You know, if they made your hair thicker, I'd use them on myself. I do it every week.
I mean, I'm going to say you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's to each their own.
Yeah, absolutely. 1000%. So,
and I've had clients swear that it makes their hair thicker. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, I'll do it, but I just don't.
I mean, hey, if you like it, I love it. If you think your hair feels better and you want this on there, I'm happy to apply it. Right.
Yep.
So I noticed you were talking about G's in your formula, and I know that's popular right now for the buttery blonde. Or whatever you want to call them, they have their terminology. So for, trend purposes, old money aesthetic, old money blonde, whatever you want to call it. Are you adding golds to your formula, or is that something you've always done? Because they're adding golds for brightness to make the blonde brighter.
So those are great questions. The NWs are really prettier. They do add the gold. Sometimes I'll do a level 9 gold with clear equal parts. Sometimes I'll do straight in. It just depends upon what I'm doing. But most of the highlight blondes you see on my page, I don't tone them at all.
Really?
I don't tone them. I'm a big fan of the Oligo blue shampoo, but I'll use that sometimes. But I'd say the foil highlights, 80% of the time, I don't tone them.
That is amazing.
I even have a couple global bleaches.
That's how good you are with formulating hair color and applying your application, because I would say 90% of colorists are toning hair these days.
Yeah, and then again, it all depends upon what you're doing.
Yeah,
but I have one or two globals that I don't tone either, and I'll always post it and put raw lift.
Oh, I love that.
I don't think I know what raw lift is, but it sounds good.
Yeah, right. I have actually, now that you mentioned that, I have some of your work, and I wanted to, so let's talk about this. So would this be an example of someone you didn't tone?
No, that's a global bleach, and she's definitely toned.
Okay, got it. And what toner would produce this whiteness in her blonde?
Something similar to the pale platinum.
Gotcha. And you use shades?
For toning, I mean, sometimes I do. This woman would be the Wella pale platinum.
Oh, got you. Okay.
There's some people I use like a little, bag of tricks that I won't reveal. It's a little nuance I learned from a blonde influencer from the East Coast. But
you know what?
You can share a lot of things, but you can't share everything because
Well, 1000%. Yeah. And unless you are, trying to launch your own education platform, you can gatekeep all you want. That is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and that nuance cost me like $1,200. So
right. So
why would I give it away?
You're like, go get your own education. I hear you.
Yeah, it's a color very, very similar to the Pale Platinum, and Pale Platinum is a very, very popular toner. That's why it's always out of stock.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So this little beauty. Oh wait, where is she?
Yeah, that was the Cowgirl Copper.
Yeah, you got her super copper. Like that is fire.
Yeah, thanks. I wish I could have got the lighting to come out a little bit better, but it's tricky. I was probably in a hurry to get to my next client, and I don't spend much time taking pictures of my clients. Usually it's in the chair. Sometimes I go out in the sunlight, but I'm usually just,
it's hard when I don't take a lot of pictures either because I don't have time. I mean, I've tried and I can't be consistent. And because I can't be consistent, I just don't do it at all. I just don't have time.
Another thing for me, like this young girl, her name's McKenna.
Mm-hmm.
If I take them outside and if I do a face shot, because I'm a guy, I've known this girl a long time. Since I've moved out here, kind of, but I don't know. I feel creepy doing it.
Really?
I think it's like sometimes I'll have my wife do it. Like if it's
is that part of the Me Too woke cancel culture stuff, or do you just feel creepy?
No, I'm older than these girls, and I'm a guy, and they're in their early mid-20s, and I'm taking them outside and smile. It just gives me like
the willies.
All my clients are like super, super cool, and they wouldn't feel weird. But I've talked to my wife about it, and she understands. Just like I would rather, I don't know. It's just me. It's for no reason.
But I'm sure they love you for it. You obviously, because you're that way, I'm sure they feel very comfortable around you.
Yeah, they do. I'm a gentleman, and that's one of my children. That's my oldest child.
What?
Yep.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's Julia, and she is a foil highlight, no toner.
Right. I was gonna, and when you said no toner, this is the photo I thought of. I thought, I bet, and that is such a beautiful, natural, golden, buttery blonde, in my opinion.
She's going darker now. We're not highlighting her as heavy.
And what's her natural color?
She's a level 6.
Yeah. Okay. So 6. She needed a little coercing, like her level, to get that light without toner, much less.
Yeah. Yeah, she just is going through a phase now where she doesn't want to be as blonde.
She's beautiful. You did a great job. So let's talk about, Patrick, let's talk about some of the trends. So what are your thoughts on some of the current trends, like with the big 90s blowouts, and what else have we got going on? And we already talked about the gold and the blonde, but the butterfly cuts, the shags, all the things. Because I'm sure you cut hair too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm really good at cutting hair. I love cutting short women's hair.
But these mullety haircuts, are you a fan?
For me, honestly, since day one, the customer's always right, and if that's what they want, I don't mind doing mullets.
And I guess where I'm trying to get is, do you follow the trends, or do you find who's your client?
My client is a girl with really long hair, and they don't want any layers. Even though every girl on my page will have very, very long layers. But I do have girls that come into me that want, like the butterfly type cut thing, which is, in my opinion, forward cut layers that are just turned outward and tweaked a little bit.
Pretty much. Forward graduation.
Yeah. That's just spun backwards with the brush. The big blowout stuff, I guess I'm just not into doing it. I'm more of a colorist, and I'm a really good cutter. But these days I just work on a lot of like long blondes that are
So it's
scared to death.
color,
They
it's
just want to
color.
dust.
Yeah, it's color, blow them out, flat iron them, and keep it moving.
Yeah,
I
but
love
I have a lot of, I do a lot of short haired women. I love doing short hair. That's so fun. That's becoming a lost talent. A lot of kids coming up
it.
can't cut hair short these days.
It's true. I love cutting hair. I'm a product of departmentalized styling
Hmm.
and from Tony and Guy, where we had to choose between cutting and color, and I chose cutting.
Okay.
So I didn't pick up a foil to color hair until 2020 when my colorist retired.
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, color is a new world. But I am a true hair cutter and I do a
Yeah.
lot of short hair, all different lengths. So let me ask you, Patrick, what would you like to change about our industry? Like, what do you see coming? Do you see anything coming, or is there anything that you'd like to see go away?
What I would like to see go away is something I did not practice myself. And one of the worst things in the industry is when somebody leaves the salon wants to fire them. And it's so short sighted. But it's talked about on social media a lot. But I think that's the thing that needs to go away because people
About
need to,
someone being the stylist?
yeah, like if a stylist decides to move on, they're like, get your stuff and get out of here.
Oh my God, that happened to me.
Yeah, it's happened to all of us. It happened to me, when I opened my salon. But I had someone that worked for me he was an assistant. Then he moved to LA for about a year, then came back, and he worked for me for 13 years. And he told me, I'm going to open up my own place. Do you want me to leave? And I'm like, no. I mean, when do you think you'll be out? He's like, maybe 3 months, maybe 6. So he was a commissioned stylist. I benefited from him for 6 months after that. And
Well, there's no reward in doing the right thing. I mean, the right thing is not to leave the owner high and dry, but when you try to do that, they fire you within minutes.
yeah, and then they'll say through the salon, they didn't even give us 2 weeks, because 2 weeks can't exist in the salon. So I would like to see people be more mature about that, and allow the 2 weeks if that's what you want to do it. But the stylist is so paralyzed to do that, they have to get their other operation going, because that's going to happen. I'm one of the few people I've ever known that did it. But at the end of the day, what salon owners need to understand, all the clients go with the stylist. 90%,
Always do.
90%
Always
of
do.
them. And you
Yep.
think you're going to clip their feet out from underneath them and break up their operation. But by the time they've told you, they're ready to go. They're ready to start up. But if they're going to give you 2 weeks, why not benefit from them? Whether it's 2 weeks of rent, 2
Well,
weeks of
in this
commission.
business, if you stay in it long enough, you may need that stylist someday. You don't
Exactly.
know, and you never burn a bridge.
It
And
burns a bridge and it makes you look bad.
exactly. And like you say, the client is coming to that salon for the stylist. I don't care how they built that client is there for them.
Yeah. And it's just like nobody owns anybody. And if a salon just becomes, it's not your vibe anymore. I mean, you worked with these people, you're friends with them. It's
Yeah,
just,
that happened.
and
That happened to me.
the
Yeah.
salon owner is doing the same thing that this person's wanting to do. And
Well,
where
exactly.
the salon
And
owner
I
started
said
with
that
person did.
when it happened to me, I thought, wow, interesting, because I'm sure you got your start somehow as a booth renter working in
Right.
someone's, or commission stylist working in somebody's establishment.
Right. And then they get so offended when anybody else wants to do it. And then you have to be enemies. And it's just so silly. I had people leave my salon, do other things, like, yeah, I get it. I'm sorry to see you go, but if you ever want to come back, and I had them return to my salon. That
And I
happened
think
with 2 different people. Yeah.
if you raise them right, they should be able to go open their own salon. I think that should be a feather in your
Right.
cap. If they
Right.
are capable of, that means look what you built, look what you created, or mentored into a successful career.
Yeah. And to
You know,
think to get that person back, because if they're opening their own place, they're some form of a superstar. And then they
absolutely.
might get out and do the salon, and be like, God, this just is not for me. And then they return to you. And if you
Exactly.
can, you getting a superstar stylist is not that easy. There's not that many.
No, it is not. And you will need them, trust me, because they're the next generation. So you'll need them to pull inspiration from. We don't know everything just because we're seasoned, you know?
Yep.
So Patrick, you have an 8-month-old baby and a wife. I love it. A new wife. You're a newlywed. So how do you find your work-life balance?
I used to be mountain biking.
By working with your wife, maybe?
What?
By working with your wife, for one?
Yeah.
That keeps it.
Work-life balance. We get along great. We have since day one. And
how did you meet your wife?
She was an apprentice at the second, technically third, but we'll say the second salon I worked at when I moved here.
Oh, cool. I love
so we kept it under wraps for a little over a year. There was 2 people in the salon that knew, but nobody else knew. And
oh, that's really hard to keep people out of your business in the salon. You guys
it was difficult. It was difficult, especially being like, a straight guy that does hair in a salon that has, a couple dozen people in it. Everybody wants to know, your business. Why don't you date anybody? Why this? Why that? And I'm like, I have friends I hang around with. Yeah,
exactly. You're like, hey, but and little do you know, I am dating somebody, actually.
Yeah, right.
So I'm sorry.
Well, you know her.
I know, you know her. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you said you mountain bike? You got
I was pretty avid, and I'll get back to it as soon as Maxie gets a little bit older and he can go with me. But just having a newborn, they slow you down on stuff like that for, I don't know, only about a year, right?
Yeah.
But I'll bring him up to be a mountain biker too. So.
Aw, I love that.
Yeah.
And what are your future plans in this industry? What do you, is it studio and work with your wife until you're done? Or do you have plans to do anything else in this business? Have you done all you could do?
That's a great question. My plans are to, as I've done ever since I moved out here, is just follow the energy. That's the best way I can put it. I don't ever want a brick and mortar again. Have a great setup now, the really, really unique building, and just follow the energy. If it's just not, whatever. It's just, if you want a new adventure, if I want a new adventure, I'm free to do that. And it's just like, it's such a freeing feeling to
Are you in Arizona for the long haul?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. This is home. No matter how.
Home for me. It's a lot moving out and, rebuilding a client base, but people ask me how I did it. I'm just like 7-day-a-week availability. I'm better than a lot of people. So if I could get in front of a client, I can usually make them happy and they come back and tell their friends. And
that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask what advice you had for new stylists, but that right there is a great piece of advice.
Yeah. Give out smiles for free. As they say, keep push and play every single day. You will get better. And assisting somebody who knows what they're doing is very important. And the best advice I tell stylists, like I've been told, I know we mentioned Kayla earlier, like I always tell people, and when I was teaching, like my assistants said, we all do hair color. We see all these tubes. We have no idea what they are. We all get in haircuts and we get lost and we just stop and we don't know where to go next. And it's the worst feeling. It's the same for all of us in the beginning. And any educator that knows anything about educating or is honest, knows that.
It's true.
But I tell them it's like a series of dots. Like if you had like a paper plate and a bunch of little mini lights, all the lights come on at different points in your career, all these little aha moments. And eventually all those little lights form a circle and you'll be doing something one day. And that's why you assist, because you get lost. And then you'll be watching the person you're assisting. You're like, oh, God. And then then you get lost somewhere else in the haircut. And then, and then eventually all those little lights form a circle and you can do it in your sleep. And people think it's easy because when they look at us, they're seeing muscle memory. And they just think, I remember talking to a girl at a place I worked. I saw her lost in a haircut. And I looked over, I said, it's not all just laughing and telling jokes, is it? And she goes, I said, "You look to be lost." And she's had her hands up. She goes, "I totally am. And you're so right. It's not. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was so easy." And it's so hard to convey to people that don't do it. Because
It's
they're
true.
just like, "You're just putting color on here and there. You're just snipping hair here and there." It's like, you just don't even bother talking to them. It's one of the hardest things you can really teach anybody if anybody's going to be good at it. And it's hard to explain why it's hard to teach, just like it's hard to explain to somebody, like, you can't market the hair industry like you market underwear at Victoria's Secrets, undergarments at Victoria's Secret. It's just like, because everybody connects with everybody differently, and you just got to find your niche and learn how you connect with people. And you can do a great job on somebody. They live next door to where you work. You're cheaper than the person they were going to, and they love their hair, and you'll never see them again.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah, and you'll do somebody's hair. It's like, oh God, I just couldn't get through to that person.
And then
you're there forever.
Yeah, you think it's you, and really it's not. It's the connection, it's the relationship. Because if you don't establish trust, they don't care. I think people, half of it is your talent, but the other half of it is your how you connect and who you are as a person. Because you don't have to be the best hairdresser to have a loyal following.
Oh, that's completely true.
Because if you have a piss poor attitude, you could be amazing. I always relate it to good looking guys. I don't care how good looking you are if your attitude stinks. Like, you become instantly ugly.
And that goes with any business, right? That's true, though, but that goes with any business.
Absolutely. 1,000%.
I had a guy, like, you talk about like personality. I had a guy I worked with years ago. He was so funny. And he used to always say, if you can't dazzle them with talent, baffle them with bullshit.
Oh, I love it.
This guy was like, he was one of the busiest, and could possibly still be. We're friends on social media. He was one of the busiest stylists in Cincinnati. Just a terrific, wonderful guy.
Exactly. And who wouldn't want to be around that energy?
Right.
And everyone does. Everyone.
And to those young stylists too, keep it positive.
Yeah.
Keep your face out of your phone. Interact with your client. Talk to your client.
It's true.
Stick your face in your phone when you're at home.
Don't be so quick to cop an attitude, because they don't know you, they don't trust you. So if they ask you a question, just answer politely. Don't be offended. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And we used to have a saying. My first mentor, who taught me everything I know, Jerry Watkins of Tony and Guy, the Arizona franchise, he said, never let a client take the scissors out of your hand. And what that meant is, don't lose control of the service.
Yep.
Because if they're telling you how to cut their hair, then you're no longer the professional.
Right. And they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, or they'll say, "Oh,
like, in theory, you should do this."
Yeah, they'll say, "Don't cut this piece, just cut the one behind it." And you're like, "Listen, lady, I'm just kidding." But you always have to be professional. Always, don't lose your cool. Don't just don't. It won't serve you ever in your career.
And it's intimidating going to someone the first time they do your hair. For all of us.
Absolutely. Even if you've been in it years and years, you get rattled by some client's energy.
The client can get rattled too. It's like they're just somebody new's doing their hair, or they just moved here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about building that trust. Yeah. Well, Patrick, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And one fun thing I do at the end is a 60-second blowout, I call it. Rapid fire questions. They're just fun. They could be about hair, not be about hair. But for the next minute, I'm going to just blast you, and you give me your first quick response, and we'll go from there. Hopefully, you give us some fun answers.
I'll do my best.
All right. You seem like a fun guy. I'm sure it'll be a good time. So this is when I put on my big, ginormous glasses.
All right. Here we go.
I cannot see nothing. All right. I'm going to set a timer here. Make sure we're still ticking. And
like a game show, the 60-second blowout.
I know. Look at us. Okay. Are you ready, Patrick?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite color?
Red.
Who did you last text?
My wife.
Sugar or salt?
Salt, probably.
Church or sports?
Sports.
If you had to eat one meal every day for a month, what would it be?
Ahi tuna.
Is the earth flat or round?
It's round, like a ball.
Is it though?
Oh yeah.
Car or SUV?
SUV.
Younger you or older you?
Either.
How
I'm the
many
same
languages
person.
do you speak?
Excuse me?
How many languages do you speak?
14.
Get out. Wella or Schwarzkopf?
Sure. Both, but Schwarzkopf.
If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
Wow, that's a great question. Geez, I don't know.
A boys' trip or a date with your wife?
A day with my wife.
Yay, and make your silliest selfie face.
Um,
That was great. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this interview, and I can say in all of these interviews that I do, I learn so much.
Oh, I'm sure.
Myself, even as a seasoned stylist. So you're going to have such an impact on new hairdressers. I just know it. And I will share with you all of the raw or, the reels and things that I create so you can post on your page. And
Hey.
Pat, where can people find you?
Instagram at Patrick4Hair.
Awesome. Have an amazing, amazing week.
You too. Thank you.